All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Coaching Season 3. We have another wonderful episode. We actually have Mouna with us, and she'll be going over a really good topic that I feel like we all need to kind of tune in. And we'll be discussing Excel Burnout Free. So, for those of us that are running businesses or coaching, balancing maybe a full time job and running a business on the side, or just life in general, I feel like today will be so helpful with helping us avoiding that burnout that can cause other issues. So, I just want to thank Mouna so much for joining us today. Now, Mouna, where are you tuning in from?
Oh, I am tuning in from Casablanca today in
Oh,
Morocco.
Morocco? Wow. What time is it there?
It's 11 p.m. Um, and yeah, today is Morocco. If it was 2 months ago, it would have been South Africa. I've been digital nomading for the past 8 months. I don't know.
How do you like it?
It's been amazing. I think I haven't looked back to from any decision that I've made the last couple of years since I've embraced entrepreneurship. So
That sounds amazing. You know what? You and I are going to have to catch up after this so I can learn more about it because that might be in my future as well. Because
oh yes, Queen, please do.
absolutely, I've seen a lot of bloggers kind of talk about it, but don't know too much. So I'm curious to know the ins and outs to for actually do it successfully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes with its challenges, and yeah, definitely something to talk about. Guys in the audience, would be good to know where you're dialing from as well.
Absolutely. So I do see real quick a few shout outs. Meryl in the audience. Hi Meryl. Thank you so much for joining us. I love it. He can you see his comment, Mona?
Awesome. Yes. And like just a disclaimer about the movie, the Rick's Cafe, where everything is supposed to be taking place, has actually been built after the movie.
Oh wow. Did not know that. And
Yeah.
then Meryl is tuning in from New Jersey.
Hi, Meryl.
Now, where are you streaming to? The cool thing about today, all of our streams are paired. So we get to see comments from every single streaming site that we're sending it to. So for myself, I'm sending it to Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as my YouTube. Where are you streaming to?
Yes, it's about the same. I have YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So most of the audience from Facebook would be in Morocco and France. And on LinkedIn, I think we'd have some people from the US and Kenya as well as other places in Africa. So yeah, very exciting.
I
Oh,
love
and
it.
Toronto.
I do. I see Steve in the audience. Thank you for tuning in from Toronto, Canada. So, this is one of the cool reasons. Oh, I see Jacqueline. Hi, Jacqueline. She's tuning in. Is that from Tennessee? Thank you for joining us. And that's one reason too, Mona, why I love the audio only platform is because Monday Night Coaching has become global. And for you, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me just within your time zone. And you said it's like 11 p.m. Where are you at right now?
Oh, yeah, but don't worry, it's not the worst. I think when I was in Bangkok around October, November, I think September, October, November episodes of my podcast, I was in Bangkok running on UK hours. And these were like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., kind of like broadcasting live.
So, I can definitely say the latest that I've probably tuned in was probably to 10 p.m. I feel like that Eastern Standard Time is kind of in that middle where the events that I attend is not too early or too late. but I'm looking forward to joining you on your event. So I'm excited.
Yes, it's gonna be fun. And I've been moving the hours to match people, the global speakers. So hopefully nobody would have to go at crazy hours.
Well, for those are you are just tuning in and joining us, today's topic is Excel Burnout Free. And I love the fact that Muna is going to be talking to us to help us really truly learn how to excel, because we had a great conversation before we start. And honestly, it's kind of hard to avoid burnout, and having someone that is just truly an expert in this can really help us, because burnout is not fun. So I'm going to hand the mic to you, Mona, for you to just fully introduce yourself, let people know more about you, and then we can get our event started for today.
Sure. So thank you so much, everyone, for dialing in and watching us live tonight. My name is Mouna Laaragat. I'm a resilience coach and the founder of the Grit Makers. And the reason why we're here talking about burnout is I've been excelling at a lot of things, but also excelling at being burnt out. And that's exactly why I wanted to create a space, whether it's through facilitation or coaching, where we can actually get better at rewriting our success stories without falling into this trap, especially when there's this toxic high performance culture. So, after so many burnouts and battling with my own trauma responses and perfectionism and work addiction and so many other addictions as well, it was really a journey to realize how embracing resilience was something very useful. And we'll definitely get to deep dive into that and see how we can solve the problems we have with performance.
I love it. And for those of you, you'll see that on the screen, we have the QR code. So if you are not connected with Muna on LinkedIn, be sure to scan that QR code right now and connect with her. All right. Well, we're going to just dive into our conversation, because I am one who suffers from, I should say, oh, what is the term? I don't burn out all the time, but I have occasional burnouts where it's like almost seasonal. I feel like it's a time of season every year where I can feel the burnout just creeping in my life. So I am really excited just to hear what you have to say. And my first question to you, Mona, and I feel like we all just wanted to start here. How do we get in our own way when it comes to performing burnout free?
I love that because it's assuming that we're the ones responsible, right? I really appreciate that self awareness. Um, but before going on listing, every technical things around that, especially around trauma, perfectionism, stuff that I mentioned already, I just want to acknowledge something. And one thing I noticed with people going through this seasonal burnout also is that we don't talk enough about when we are on the verge of burnout. And there's a few reasons. And guys in the audience, please let us know in the comments if you've noticed that too. But I think there's the stigma around it. Even if we've experienced it, or even if we know people do experience it, we don't want to be seen with the defect. There's also the fact that we sometimes don't even realize that we're close to hitting the wall. And finally, this big thing about performance is really the pressure to perform, to stay strong and represent. And I think these are things that we need to acknowledge, right? I see someone in the comments that is like saying there's no question where we have all experienced burnout. There's 80% of the people, I think, that go through burnout at some point. So, especially founders, entrepreneurs, is even worse. Not only we struggle with mental health, but we also, like, 30% of founders struggle with anxiety. So there's like really, it's a lot. I just want us to pause here and reflect on that moment where we have told ourselves to just keep pushing. And Amolia, tell me if you're not telling yourself that. to just keep pushing to succeed.
That was my speech to myself today. Especially when you have back-to-back things, like, just, "You got this, just keep pushing, you can do it, it's gonna be worth it in the end."
It's really like, it's that famous double-edged sword. I think that just keep pushing has become the sentence that now is making me cringe, because I've had that self-talk to myself before, and I hear it all the time still. And the thing is, like, when you're building something, uh, and you're trying to succeed, you really pushing onto having no sleep to finish off a project. And that night, for example, where you don't get a good sleep, you finish up with like 3 sleepless nights, and then 7. And then, for example, if you're building a product, you're like, just need 1 month to build this product, or meet a deadline, or build a program. But the thing is, if at the end of it, you just build that thing, you ship it, and if it flops, you will be left with no energy to just navigate that. So for me, that sentence of like keep pushing is really that fine line between, you know, actually persistence and insanity. So I don't know if you don't feel like you're going nuts when you're hitting the wall and you keep trying to go through it.
No, I agree. And when we experience those things, my next question to you is, how do, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get that one. I was just going to ask you, like, how do we prevent burnout from happening in the first place? And this is like the biggest question, because we all think we got it figured out until we hit that rock bottom place again. It's like, wow, I'm burnt out all over again.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, it's very linked to your first question, understanding what's fueling it, understanding what it is. So we need to define burnout and understand what's fueling it. And I think there's a big part of our conditioning and the way we're brought up, or the way society is conditioning us around um, things like having to get everything's right from the get-go, perfectionism, or even desire to prove ourselves, proving ourselves to others, needing of external validation to feel worth it. And these are things that are pushing us to keep pushing. And sometimes I feel like there's one big component as well that fuels burnout is if you find yourself like just becoming a soldier in a purposeless war, just standing in the middle of a battlefield, wondering how the hell you even ended up there. I think that's starting to give you some signs. And if we look at something else than just the standard definition that you'd have about burnout, like the way I see it is really going back to that wall where, frankly, you can't keep pushing anymore, but you still try. And it really can get as bad as ending up in the hospital. So it's really when our mind doesn't listen, our body is there to claim its rest. So the first signs, like whether it's tiredness, whether it's you feeling irritable, you don't have clarity anymore, you feel that you're getting shittier at doing something that you used to excel at. Your judgment is clouded, you're feeling like more self-doubt, you feel like you just want to withdraw from everything, not talk to anyone, you don't want to be social anymore, keep to yourself, and no motivation left to do anything. It's thought for everyone here that is very, very aware of mental health, this starts sounding like depression, which is the final stage of burnout. So when we are aware that it's not only the mental health, but the physical impact that can happen, it's really, really giving us the big signs to want to prevent it from happening. And I think one big thing that we're doing here tonight is talking about it, having these conversations to lift the stigma, to exchange on coping mechanisms, and lift the veil really around, what's happening out there, because 80% is a lot. If we're in a room and we're 10 people, there's 8 of us in this shit, so we're not alone.
Now, Mouna, Jay had a really good question. How do we define the difference between burnout and stress? Or is there no difference at all?
That's a really good question. Actually, it's said that, burnout is created from a very long and prolonged exposure to stress. So I would say that they are strongly correlated. They are different in the sense that you can face stress or something that generates that emotions within you without being burnt out. But the amount of times that you are going to be stressed out and how long you are going to be like stressed out for is leading you to burnout.
So you saying stress is like the first step to reaching burnout?
Yes, it's something that is going to cause it. Of course, I mean, I don't know anyone who's burnt out from chilling on the beach for too long. Um,
I have been burnt out from a 7-day cruise before, though. It's like, okay, I'm ready to go home. No, I'm just kidding.
but there's also like this preconceived idea, and especially the sentence that sticked with me, that you don't burn out because you're doing too much of the hard stuff. You burn out because you're not doing enough of stuff that you love and the good stuff. And that's really my soft approach around burnout with resilience, is breaking down these preconceived ideas. Even when it comes to resilience, when we think about it as being something around toughness, powering through, suffering. But actually, to me, it's really just having the courage to look after yourself. And when you step away from the traditional fight or flight behavior that we get conditioned to, and you start taking a little more control over your state, then, embracing a true resilient mindset, you're constantly going to be in expansion. You're not going to drive yourself insane because you're going to look for, how you can evolve sustainably. And you're going to fight that short temptation of, oh, I need to perform in the short term and favor the short term gain, instead of thinking, okay, long term, if I burn out and I'm in the hospital for a year, who's going to run my business?
No, I agree. And I feel like those are things that we should really think about because we really push ourselves to do these things. But if we push ourselves too much, we can't do it at all. And especially for those that are parents that are balancing a business, you definitely don't want to. They always say, I love this phrase as a mom, if mommy's not okay, no one's okay. If, if you're not okay, your business won't be okay. So these things truly matters.
I love that. And you just encompassed everything that is there to say around, like the key component to success and standing up in adversity and being this beacon of excellence and sanity, is really that leading by example, which person your children can look up to. And being that person happens by, leading your family with purpose, your family, yourself, your business with purpose, being clear on your values, being clear on your priorities, and especially being clear that taking care of yourself is a priority. Because the best way to inspire your family, your children, or your team is really to lead by example, show them that taking care of themselves is important, and that you can be productive, but in a healthy way. Because if they look at you really literally killing yourself, it's not installing the best rules to start with.
I love that you said it that way because they watch you. And
Mm.
you could be setting a bad example and don't even know. Like you're teaching your children how to be burnt out versus being that role model that you think you're being for your children. That is
Yeah.
something to really think about. I love the fact that you said that. That's like a mirror being held in front of me.
It's I can feel for you when you say that, because when working with moms, it's really really like the biggest challenge, right? Because we want to give so much, but the thing is you need to have something to give. You need your cup to be full before you can pour it and fill the one of others. So it's we really overlook how, it's like when you jump on a plane, right? They tell you if there's any issue and the oxygen mask is falling, you have to put your own first before you put the one of your child. And there's a reason, is that if you're passed out, you can't save your children. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind for how we lead our lives as well.
I love it. And you know what? My next question kind of go hand in hand. So we kind of talked about the difference between burnout and stress. But my question to you is when it's too late and we're already down and we already kind of hit that burnout, it's like a whole nother game. Now, what is the difference between burnout recovery and burnout prevention? Because I hear this a lot and I would love for you to kind of explain the two for us.
Yeah, absolutely. How can I put it? And I don't know if to use a vase or a pot, but think about a plant, right? And how you nurture a plant and you do everything so it can bloom and blossom. And you're having this plant pot with your favorite thing and you're looking after it. So you're taking care of it, you're changing if it's a vase, you're changing the water. If it's a plant pot, you're watering it, placing it in the light, making sure nobody knocks it down, especially if the kids are running around. um, Now when shit happens and the vase or the pot breaks, you only have one vase or one pot, so probably you'll have to bin the flowers, or if it's a plant, you'll save the roots or save the seeds. And then you piece this pot back together. You use some glue, you wait for the glue to solidify, you test again, see if it can hold the water or the soil. And then you plant the plants again, you water it again, and for whatever that hasn't died to blossom again. So I'd see this process is very similar, right? So before burnout, you take something grounded and healthy for granted. You knock it around, you forget to water it, you think it's a cactus. Well, actually, it's a bonsai. And burnout prevention is very much around building that resilience muscle before it's atrophied. Whilst with burnout recovery, we're going to have a different approach. And depending on how far gone people are, if there's actually some pieces of the pot that you can still piece together, if there's some pieces missing, it can take a fair amount of time to recover. So it would take a hell lot of self-love, compassion to, but probably as well deepest therapy and follow-ups, and a lot more rest as well, because we're talking about the body here suffering as well. So I think the idea when I started looking into burnout was really preventing people from ending up in the hospital. So that's where we talk about burnout prevention, right? And and it's something that is important. That's why we do a lot of these, like education around it, because when you end up in that stage, the burnout recovery is a lot longer And it's really, you not only have to heal your body, you have to heal the burnout, the mental and emotional damage of it, and you have to deal with the guilt that comes with it, because there's a whole other thing that we don't talk about, is that guilt of, I have let that happen to me, or I was not strong enough, or I couldn't do it. And this is something that is important as well, to know that we have to navigate, which obviously in burnout prevention, well, you're taking your responsibility beforehand, and you're trying to prevent that from happening. But when it's there, you have to tell yourself, well, why did I not do that before? And it can eat you up. But the thing is, I'm going to sound maybe quite crazy saying that, there is something quite beautiful in exploring the transformation that an experience like burnout forces you to face. Because it's like being reborn. Sometimes you need to break the pot to piece certain pieces together that you actually have lost a long time ago. So now I get actually excited, as much working with people on burnout prevention as much as burnout recovery. You see so many different facets, and people as are as resilient before and after burnout, to be honest, if not even more.
You know what? I 100% agree. And I love the fact that you mentioned guilt. And if it's okay, I would love to be fully transparent. And for those that tune in to Monday Night Coaching, they know I'm always transparent and telling a story. But you just clicked something in me that I didn't even realize that I was experiencing. And that was probably the hardest part of my recovery, was forgiving myself for getting as bad as I did, to where that guilt hit me. I felt terrible. I felt like a terrible mom. I felt that I was just let everyone at my day job down, just my personal, my friends. And Mona, I believe it was like last year, hit burnout so bad. I ended up in the hospital. I got severely depressed. My health, because I do have health challenges, everything went crashing. The stress triggered my health. Because I had so many moving components against me, I got severely depressed. Severely, just everything was falling apart. And the biggest thing I felt that was the worst experience was the guilt of it all. Like, how me out of all people, how did I let this happen? I'm not supposed to be the one that breaks. I'm not supposed to be the one that, I hate the stigma, but they make us feel crazy when we experience burnout, right? The
Mm.
quickest thing to label someone as crazy, but they don't realize depression is a real thing. It's a real, you can have everything going for yourself, but depression does not discriminate.
Oh, oh, that's for sure. And I mean, it takes so much courage to be able to acknowledge that. And there is so much that we can, be hands up. I've burnt out, I've gone through this, or I didn't have the energy, or I've gone through this. But like really being able to say that, I am struggling to forgiving myself, or I'm learning, I'm in the process to learn how to love myself or how to forgive myself. It's really hard, because we're not taught how to love ourselves at school. We're not taught really by life we're taught how to love others, but it's not something that we're taught. We're more inclined to people please. We're more inclined to giving love to others, giving compassion to others, giving forgiveness to others. And actually, it takes practice to learn how to give that to ourselves.
I agree. We're taught Like we everyone tell us to refill our cups, but no one teach us how.
Yeah.
And I feel like the biggest thing I hear a lot of people, but this is like a really good question. It's like the hardest thing is knowing like how do you know when you love yourself? How to love yourself? It's like how like the most popular thing that you hear is that people neglect self-care and the knowing your worth. Like when it comes to things for yourself, I feel like that is the most common battle that a lot of people experience because like you mentioned, we're taught to do for others, love others, be givers, but we're not being trained or taught how to do those exact same things for ourselves.
Yeah, and you know what's the worst thing is that today, as we're having well-being practices being more and more popular, we're jumping out of corporate burnout and we're jumping in well-being burnout because we are told you need to do this, you need to wake up at 5 a.m. and you need to have 2 hours yoga and you need to fit in 1 hour meditation and still be a good mom and go and spend time with your children and do and be a good wife and be spending time with your husband, and you still have to do your work and spend like 8 to 12 hours working on your business and doing your day job and your side hustle, and it's just like it's going nuts. And I think what we forget is that taking care of yourself is personal, is something, there is no one size fits all. And I think that's one of the traps that we fall into nowadays, is because we are aware of burnout, we are aware that we need to take care of ourselves, and then we try again to fit in somebody else's mold, like, and fit within someone else's rules that don't fit our lifestyle, that don't fit our personality, that don't fit our own trauma and conditioning, and we just follow the grain. Um, so that is definitely something that I see, in the well-being world, and something that I think that helps a lot with how we navigate ourselves, just making sure that you have to rewrite your own rules per se.
And you know what? I'm glad we've kind of being realistic when it comes to burnout and that it actually happens because I love how everyone make it seem like it's a myth and you can do these small things to make it go away. But my next question to you, because when it does happen and like once burnout has set in, what would you say is the most important step in the recovery process? How can we start to get back on track? I'm sorry, get back on track when we've already hit that low point. And I think that's the hardest part is when you reach that burnout stage, how do we pull ourselves out of it?
Well, there's definitely something that you'll have to contribute to. Um, but from what I gather, I think one massive step is acceptance. It's like from everyone I speak to going through burnout, and even myself, when I had hit rock bottom, the first step was self awareness. Like literally accepting that this is it, accepting what you're going through, and accepting that, you can like turn and twist your mind on the how, the why, the how did that happen, or blah. But at the end of the day, when it hits, it hits. And just accepting that that's it is burnout. When I mentioned like pushing and pushing and pushing, I think that's the worst. Not accepting that we're going to burnout and wanting to push, wanting to power through depression without treating the cause. You hit the wall, but you keep bashing yourself onto it. You're only making the bruises last longer. And I think once you accept your situation, then you can find the courage to love yourself. Then you can learn to forgive yourself and let go of the guilt. And if for any reason you're in a position where you're blaming others, then you can learn how to take responsibility and better care of yourself. So, it's all about self love. Of course, it's a lot about learning, but I think it starts from that, from this acceptance and forgiveness.
I agree. And I love the fact that you mentioned earlier that sometimes your burnout could be the best thing that happened to you. And I can definitely say for myself, if I did not burn out and hit my complete low point, I probably wouldn't have established certain boundaries. I love that Leslie Flowers, in her last comment, she commented boundaries with the exclamation mark, because that is so important to kind of help prevent burnout, especially as a parent. You kind of have to set boundaries for within yourself, for within your children, your work life. Boundaries does help a lot. And I feel like a lot of times, depending on personalities, you're afraid to set those boundaries because you don't want to make people upset. You don't want the confrontation for those that may not respect boundaries, and you know for a fact that they're not going to respect your boundaries. But you cannot be afraid to cut those people out your life if they're not going to respect your boundaries, because at the end of the day, I should say, your life matters most. And if you're burning yourself out trying to keep those people in your life who will not respect your boundaries, what's going to happen to when you're no longer here because you burnt yourself out completely?
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is very powerful because that really goes back to, those keys, the key to success, and the key to um, leading leading by example, uh, but also the environment, the importance of the environment, that support system, how you surround yourself. Do you have the right positive influence? If you're working with people, who you hire, can you learn from them? And really, who you take advice from? Is it someone that is actually really teaching you something? Really having that psychologically safe surrounding is really important. And the other thing is really practicing that, practicing having that space that serves you, practicing the habits that work for you, practicing questioning yourself, practicing asking for help as well, which we don't do enough of. And and I think as well is trying to do some work around understanding the roots of burnout, because this is also something we don't do until we're facing it. This rebirth is understanding, why am I a perfectionist? Why am I always putting myself last? How was I conditioned that way? And what can I do to rewrite my story?
No, I think that's a great place to pause. So I'm going to share the link with you in our private chat, Muna, so that way you can share with your audience too. If anyone wants to join us live on stage, feel free. You can ask your questions live, or you can put your questions in the chat. We love to hear from you. Want to give you guys an opportunity to really jump into the conversation, because I think this is a really powerful conversation tonight, and I would love to hear from you. I love that Christy did give us a comment. She mentioned leaving a toxic space is self care, and I 100% agree. I agree.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, definitely. And hi, Christy. It's so good to see you in another live.
So I'm going to give you time. I'm going to just highlight some of our comments to give you time to share that link with your audience. I did share that link in the private group of our Monday Night Coaching group chat. If you guys, anyone that's tuning in within that chat, want to join us behind the scenes, feel free to join us. We love to hear from you, your experiences. How have you dealt with burnout or just preventing yourself from burning out? Some things and practices you put in place, or just some boundaries that you had to really be firm on to keep yourself from burning out or after experiencing burnout. So, real quick, did you see that link to kind of spread around? Did you see it in the private chat?
Yeah, I'm sharing it.
All right. And while we do that, I'm going to give some shout outs. And I love the fact, so I'm going to introduce you to Merle because I always love to give Merle a shout out. Merle is like the, like I don't know, there is not a title that I can give him. He is godsend when it comes to helping us navigate these events. He's really good with the community portion, sending out the invites and getting the links in the comments for us. So I want to thank you, Meryl. I did put that link in our group chat. Sometimes it is a little complicated trying to highlight comments and put certain things in the chat. And today I'm on one screen rather than two screens. So it's a little bit harder. So Meryl, I appreciate you if you could take that link for me and put it in the comment section so that those, if anyone is interested, they could join us live on screen. But I'm going to give us some shout outs. You let me know if you could recognize anyone from your platforms or your community as well. We can give them a shout out. So, of course, I definitely gave the shout out to Merle. So, thank you so much for joining us. Steve, again, I want to give you another shout out. He told us earlier he was tuning in live from Toronto, Canada. We do have Jacqueline tuning in from Tennessee. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those that are just tuning in, our guest speaker is tuning in from Morocco. So that's really nice that she is staying up. I love that Meryl mentioned Night Owl, that you are staying up to join us. We do have Jay with us. Thank you so much, Jay, for tuning in. We do have Felipe with us. Thank you so much, Felipe, for tuning in. We have a few others. I believe this is a paired one. They didn't show their name, but they're tuning in from Reno, Nevada. Thank you so much. Leslie, thank you so much for tuning in. I definitely loved your comment regarding boundaries. Boundaries is very important. And let's see here. We have Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. And then to Mouna, when you're ready to move forward, just let me know. I just want to give you time to share those links while I highlight these comments for us. I believe we do have another paired comment. It might be from yours. It's not showing the name, but they're thanking Meryl. And let's see. We do have Kendra. Thank you, Kendra, all the way from Wyoming. Thank you for joining us. Annie, I want to thank you for joining us too. I appreciate you. And I think I'm covering everyone. Oh, no, we have Percy. Percy, thank you. And then Christy, I think we covered everyone. If I did not get to you, my apologies. Okay, and then Steve, lastly, he said, double shout out. Thanks, my pleasure to be here. There are so many great nuggets of knowledge being shared, and I agree. And I appreciate you sharing. So feel free to join us live on stage if you want to. You do have that link. Don't be shy. I'm going to just let you know, put this here. So as we continue with the conversation, you know that the door is open for you to join us. All right, Mouna, are you ready to continue?
Yes, I am here and happy as well to welcome people to join us, as well as just dropping in their own experience as well in the comments and their questions too.
I love it. So I have another question for you. And it kind of goes a little after the previous one. So, for someone who feels they may be on the verge of burnout but isn't quite there yet, what advice do you have for them to reset and prevent it from happening? And what early signs should they watch out for? I think that's really important to look out for.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a fair question that comes up, similarly than the one, oh, how do I know if it's just stress or if it's just a low period or I'm just having a bad day or if I'm getting to burnout? And I think whenever I hear that question or whenever I receive that question, it's it's really, if you're questioning yourself, chances are you're probably right there, because there's enough information out there to know that it's normal for us to have that behavior, to want to keep pushing. And I think if we're asking ourselves if we need a break, uh, it's probably because a part of us really need it and is battling that other conditioned part that is telling us to keep pushing. And I think that's something to keep in mind. Usually, or I want to say 95% of the times when someone was like, but how do I know if I'm just stressed out or if I'm getting close to burnout? They've, they've, they were very close to the edge. Now, when it comes to these early signs, is something that we mentioned before. It's so gradual. We don't It can sneak upon you. You just, like, one day everything is fine and then you feel like where it has been coming from, and then you start realizing, looking back and realizing, oh yeah, I started slowly losing taste for my day job, slowly, and losing my sense of purpose. But I was just thinking that, you can't just be passionate about things every day all the time. Or it starts because you have a habit or something that you actually love, that you do all the time, and then slowly, 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 over a very long period of time, you reduce the activity, or you reduce or you stop doing it completely for months, for years, and then that part goes missing. It's really the graduality of things, and noticing that in your day to day you start feeling, this exhaustion that doesn't go away. And this feeling that, that self doubt is overtaking you. And you're not clear anymore on certain things that were very obvious to you before. I think it's really fair to note that transition, is that this impression that, well, I used to be very good at doing that, and now I'm feeling that I'm not there anymore, you know? And it's really feeling that. It doesn't mean that it's the case, but really thinking and noticing that your judgments start as well being clouded, which that adds up onto the self doubt. And then I think when it becomes very obvious is, when you don't have the energy to do certain things that you used to enjoy. You don't enjoy socializing with people you used to appreciate. um, you don't have the motivation to do things that you used to enjoy and you used to like. I think, yeah, that gets to a much deeper level. But what I think is really important to note is that at every single step, beyond those doubts, beyond the tiredness, I think is when you feel the guilt of taking a break or the guilt of taking care of yourself. I think there is no other choice but to remember that a few moments in your day, this 5 minutes where you're just going to take a breather or a walk, few days where you just go. Someone was mentioning, you're going to a 7 days cruise. It's amazing. I really hope you recharge. And I really hope you spend the 7 days really focusing on you and recharging, and not, you know, focusing on other responsibilities that are taking away from yourself, which is hard. But, I think that's fine. It's girls' cruise, so you should be all right. But I think to get rid of that guilt is just thinking that when you're burnt out in a hospital bed, it can take a year for you to recover. And that year of you not being able to perform or excel in any area of life, you can't make money. And even if you actually make money whilst you sleep, you can't enjoy it from the hospital. You can't be there for your family. You can't give back to others. So when you put things in perspective, 7 days, 2 weeks, or even a month break is really better than having to recover from burnout because you've pushed too hard for way too many years and then everything fall apart.
I love that. And one thing I can definitely say, like you mentioned, like those seasonal burnouts and taking that time and really taking that time, I actually started taking summer sabbaticals and it helps so much. The first time I did it, I felt completely guilty. The second time I did it, it was like, I needed this. This is amazing. This is something that needs to happen annually. And for those that are part of my tribe will understand because like I mentioned, it's needed that little time because there's so much, especially as parents. The summer is when everything is like your kid is out of school, you got to figure out what to do. You got your job, you got your business. I was like, okay, summer sabbaticals are meant for me. But the practice and doing it over time, you actually start to see what it's doing for you to where you start feeling less guilty about doing what you need to do for you. If that make any type of sense.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it's completely understandable, right? You don't want to drop the ball in the day to day. You're like, I need to be here, but it's really putting that into perspective. And sometimes it's also a conversation to have with our loved ones, when we need to claim that break. Because I make it sound easy, right? Yeah, just go on a 7 days girls cruise. But then sometimes you have to explain to your partner why you need that. You have to explain maybe to your boss why you need that if you have a boss, or you need to explain to your clients why you're going to disappear for that amount of time, or even to your children. Having that conversation is important, and it's important to, when you put things in perspective, to help others as well understand that perspective. And being in a psychologically safe environment is important. And that's something you work on, it's something you can nurture. And yeah, I think hopefully the more we multiply these conversations, the more we give ourselves permission to learn how to practice claiming our rest, claiming how to love ourselves better. That resilience isn't always fighting, but can also be resting and learning that too. I think slowly but surely we're going to head there, but we just all need to become like these little soldiers and grit makers and looking after ourselves and spreading love and self-care around, because it's by embodying change that we can spread it.
I love it and I agree. And I think having those conversations are so important. And communication is key, especially with family. And if you feel like they may not be understanding properly, still doing what's best for you. Because I've heard a lot of times, or I should say, I've been a part of a lot of conversations to where they do not take the necessary time for themselves due to others around them understanding why that time is needed.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, and that's why it's important. Like, the power of community is priceless. because that's the thing. If you are in a nurturing community, these relationships, that you mentioned, that sometimes you have to cut off certain people that are not really good for you. Those boundaries, they are very important. And it's sometimes being like, well, what's the consequence? This person not liking me for a few days because I've told them that I needed space and I took it, or me being incapacitated to enjoy my life and basically half dead for a year. I think you quickly make the choice.
The decision becomes very clear.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. You have given us so many gems, so many things to think about, and so many takeaways from today's conversation. We are approaching the hour mark, so I want to make sure I give you time to share with our community your bonus. And I think they're really going to appreciate this too, especially for those that are on the verge of burnout, experiencing burnout, may not want to get to that point and want to get a jump on it for just any type of burnout prevention. I do want to hand the mic to you so you can tell them more about what you have to offer, your bonus, and I'm going to put the QR code on the screen for you.
Thank you so much. I think it was definitely also a pleasure for me to join you tonight. I love having these conversations. And as you have noticed, I can endlessly be talking about resilience and burnout prevention and mental health. So thanks everyone for tuning in. In the QR code, you'll find like a form for a free consultation. You can also find it on my profile on LinkedIn. Please do connect. We'd love to stay in touch. Introduce yourself. Tell me what you love the most, what you hated the most, and what you would improve. And also the things maybe that you didn't get a chance to share with us live if you want to leave it in the comments after watching the replay. During the consultation, this is where we determine what you need the most. Like I mentioned, there is no one size fits all. There are programs and there are frameworks to help people and companies progress and achieve their goals. But I'm very adamant to the fact that each individual or each group of individuals will have certain specificities to address. So that's why the consultation is important, is to make sure that we level up and we understand each other. And it's a two-way street that we see if we enjoy each other's company to be working on something quite personal and quite deep to instill change.
Thank you. And for those of you that are not connected with Muna on LinkedIn, I want to make sure you do have the opportunity to do so. Here is her profile link. So feel free to scan that. We will make sure all of these links are within the comment section of each stream. And again, where are you streaming to again, Mona?
Definitely YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well.
Okay, perfect. All right. Would you like to give any closing remarks before we close our event for today?
Absolutely. I think always look after yourself first, because there are thousands of ways that you can make more money. There are thousands of ways that you can, share with people and give back. And there are thousands of ways that we can experience certain things, but you only have one health. And if you don't look after it and take it for granted, you're not going to be able to do anything else. So I'm very grateful for you being here with us tonight. It was a pleasure. Please do reach out just if you have any questions, if you want to explore any collaborations as well on workshops, or if you desire any coaching. I'm open to conversing.
I love it. And for my audio leadership club members that are here, I am going to try to get her with us because you would be amazing to have in our community. I'm telling you, just what you have to offer. a lot of us can definitely have that resource, especially to help us from not burning out. So, for those of you that are not a part of the Audio Leadership Club, here's the link if you want to learn more, the QR code. And just a little bit about us, we are a community that is full of support, collaboration, and like you mentioned, having that safe space matters. So we do focus on events, podcasting, and things like that. And we probably have like, what, 50 or more so amazing speakers and individuals to just connect and collaborate with. So just if you are interested in learning more about the Audio Leadership Club, that is there for you. And if you do like content like this, we do audio only, but if you want to tune in more of our events for Monday Night Coaching, be sure to join our VIP listeners list so we can update you when we have more great topics. But before we leave out, I want to put the event bonus back on the screen for those that may not have the opportunity to scan it. You can scan it now. And again, we will make sure you have those links in the comment. If you are someone that is watching the replay, feel free to comment, leave your questions. We will circle back and make sure you have a response.
Absolutely. I love that. I love the idea of the Audio Leadership Club. It's definitely very appealing. I encourage everyone as well who's watching the replay, just check it out. And we'll definitely be letting you on what we are doing in the future together, because between creators, there's always creative ideas to collaborate on. And we're definitely going to keep you updated with that.
I love it. We do have a few more comments. Oh, I see Meryl. He has he's thanking you, so I appreciate it. This was amazing. I'm gonna watch the replay and just take in a lot of this knowledge. Sometimes when you're the person producing these events in the back end, I can't wait to just sit down and listen to it for myself because a lot of these things I do need to take heed for myself.
Yes, you definitely been doing such an amazing job at manning the stream, you know. Definitely there's a lot of work that goes into this. So big up to you, and definitely excelling at the audio events, Queen.
Aw, thank you. Well, everyone, we're going to let you enjoy the rest of your evening. I want to thank you for joining me all the way from Morocco. I know it's late, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. We're going to let you get your rest.
No, thank you so much. The night owl in me is happy. And thank you so much, guys. Thanks, Meryl. Thanks, Christy. Thanks, everyone. And